Okie dokie. So, in today's quick little breakdown of my thoughts, I'm going to quickly talk to you guys about what it is that I would typically have for a bit of a meal or a breakdown of my daily food plan or something. To start and preface this, I don't actually count my calories the way that people do by weighing all their foods. Now, in a lot of cases, if I was being particular about a specific goal, like I was trying to lose a specific amount of weight or body fat or something, then I probably would. I do have a small scale at home that I use for that, but I don't use it at the moment. I have a decent understanding of size and portions of generally most of the foods that I eat anyway, just having done that for a few times before. I get a decent understanding of that. If there's any foods I'm eating that I'm unaware of, I can have a general Google search and figure out roughly sort of how many calories something like that is, so I have a bit of an idea. But I'm not counting, I'm not keeping it specific. I know roughly what I need to be eating as far as the total for the day is. My biggest concern is making sure that I hit my protein. So a lot of people have this weird mixed feeling about protein, and I don't understand it. Protein, they do this protein rah thing where, oh, I'm going to get bulky. You ain't going to get bulky nothing. Look at the people that eat the most amount of protein. Hunter-gatherers are thin, rail thin. The thing that we have is we think that protein is just going to turn you into a muscular person, especially, unfortunately, people who are trying to not get too bulky. Now, you're not going to get bulky just because all of a sudden you're eating a bit of protein. You got to get that out of your head. That doesn't work like that. There's a bunch of people out there trying to get bulky, and they're eating a whole lot of protein, and they ain't getting bulky. Your body's not going to just take protein and turn it into your muscle. It doesn't work like that. It's going to convert protein into energy, into an energy source first, until you have enough of that. And then if there's anything left over afterwards, then it can utilize bits and pieces, in particular in specific places, like carbohydrates for energy, fats for tissues, and protein for muscles. But if you're lacking in total amount of energy for the day, as in your total daily caloric intake, your body, if you eat 100% of your daily caloric intake in protein, it's not just going to make you a freaking big beastie muscle ball. You're just going to convert. It's just an expensive form of energy. You can get much quicker, easier to break down source of energy by just consuming, quick carbohydrates. There used to be this trick back in the day where you would take like a spoonful of honey or, one little bite of a little chocolate bar or something straight after training to give your brain, a bit of a trick. So your brain would think it was getting all this really high energy, quick to break down source of carbohydrates. And so it would feel satisfied with the energy that you just used in your workout. It would feel satisfied with that amount of energy, replacing the energy stores. Then you would have your protein after that. And it was, as they said back then, a trick for your brain to then think, okay, my energy stores have been replaced, therefore I can use the protein into repairing muscle tissue. In some ways, I think that's true. I don't think it's the way that they used to sell it to us, but I think in some ways this is true. But if you break that down into a daily process, if you have a continuous amount of protein through the day, you'll always have the protein stored there for the body to use for repair of muscle. Building muscle, trust me, you need a lot of food consistently for a long period of time in order to really build actual muscle tissue. You might gain some weight, but it ain't gonna be always muscle, bro. It ain't. You might think it is, but it ain't. You might have gone up a couple sizes in your t-shirts, but it ain't always muscle. Dudes who talk about gaining 10, 20 pounds really quickly, I'm like, dude, I don't think so. You might weigh 20 pounds more, but you did not gain 20 pounds of muscle that quickly, dude. But anyway, my daily eating habits are based on hitting my protein intake on a daily basis as often as I can. It's not every day, but as often as I can, I try and hit my daily protein caloric intake. And then I fill the rest with whatever I like. On most days, that's usually pretty healthy food. On some days, it's not. Depends where I am, what I'm doing, how long I've had, and days off and days on, what I'm kind of in the mood for at the same time. Convenience, sometimes I understand not having prepared food and being hungry and not having time, I get it. But as long as I hit my protein intake, two things will happen. One, I'll not lose any of my muscle, which I'm not trying to do. So my recovery will be good, my training will stay consistent, so that's good. And two, I'll stay full longer, because protein is more satiating. So if you don't eat the amount of protein your body needs in a day, you'll end up snacking and craving quick, fast-acting sugars. So if you are one of those people who's always snacking and always hungry for snacks, take a small mental note and realize that you're not eating the amount of protein you should be eating in a day. For the most part, you will not be craving anything if you hit your total protein for the day. Little trick. Whatever that may be for you, break that down to 3 meals a day, 4 meals a day, 2 meals a day, whatever it is that you eat in a day. And when it comes down to that part, my general eating pattern goes along the lines of something like this. I have 2 liquid meals, 1 soft meal, and 1 hard meal. What I mean by that, and it doesn't matter what part of the day those are in, that's just based on whatever the day is. But my 2 soft meals will be protein shakes. Just 50 grams of protein, usually using a powder. One of those will have some creatine in it, the one I'm gonna have closest to my workout, either just before or just after. And the other one will have maybe some vitamin C, some glutamine or something like that in there too. Just general health type of bits and pieces, I add them. So one's more protein and creatine for gym, one's a bit more protein and supplements for health. Then my soft meal will be something I call soft. It's a bit more like maybe some scrambled eggs, a couple of boiled eggs, handful of fruit, a couple of nuts. Like a sort of almost what people will consider a snack foods, but considered more like 2 or 3 small snacks as one, and consider that a meal. There'll more than likely always be something like a banana, some berries, some walnuts. I have these tiny little grain oat type biscuit things, but they're actually just really tiny, like the size of a Australian 50-cent coin, something like that. A bit thicker, but that sort of circumference. They're not too big. I'll have 1 or 2 of those with a little bit of honey on top, something like that. That's my soft meal. And then obviously my hard meal will be like an actual meal that you guys would consider a meal, you know, whatever that may be. Protein source, vegetables and carbohydrates and stuff like that. So that's usually how I break down my meals. Now I'm saying that the timing in between them is spread out as far as having one at the end of the day, for sure. So one of those protein shakes will be at the end of the day. I try not to eat my solid meal too late, or not necessarily time-wise too late, but as in too close to bedtime. My soft meal will fit in there somewhere, usually just after workout, and then my other protein meal is probably usually about 45 minutes to an hour before I work out. I don't know if there's any science as to why or how, or whether it's good for you or not, or better or whatever. I don't care about that bullshit. To me, it's absolutely irrelevant. If it's all there, as far as protein intake for the day, consistently by, between spread out around 10 to 12 hours, however long it is the window that I use to eat, then I'll be fine. I just do it that way. I don't worry about the intricate little details too much. It's too, I've done it before, and I've been very particular and specific, and it ain't done nothing. It's not changed anything. Now, this is in general health, okay? I'm not talking to bodybuilders and competitors and athletes. I'm not talking about them. For them, sure, there is specific timing needed because there's constant amount of training, recovery, and everything needed. But for me, just general health, maintaining what I have, going to the gym every day and recovering enough to be able to train again tomorrow, that's all I'm talking about, okay? The average person, the average gym goer. So that's essentially how I eat. I eat 2 shakes, a soft meal, and a hard meal, or a small meal and a big meal, if you want to call it that. The thing is, the foods I use are why I call them soft meals and hard meals. I'm not eating potatoes and steak in my soft meal, and I'm not eating fruit in my hard meal. That's why I call them that versus small and big. I separate those things. You can do a bit of Googling as to why I do that if you like. I'm not super strict on it, but for the most part, this is what I try and do. But yeah, just learned some of that stuff during some of my travels through Asia. Some of the foods that you should and shouldn't mix together. You eat at the same time. But anyway, that's how I eat my food. My total caloric intake is protein plus whatever. 2 shakes, 1 soft meal, 1 hard meal. And that's pretty much it. There's not much to it. I don't weigh my food or count my calories too much. I guess in my head subconsciously I am sort of counting or keeping an eye on it, but I'm not very specific. I don't mind too much about that stuff. And hey, I got a 6-pack. I'm 45, I got a 6-pack. I'm not bragging about that. That's actually a bit more of a slap in the face to most other 45-year-olds, because I only look half decent as a 45-year-old because the rest of the guys don't. It's not because I'm superhuman, Superman. Just put me against the average 45-year-old, and I'm probably look half decent, but it's only because the rest of the 45-year-olds around here just, I don't mean here specifically, but the rest of the 45-year-olds around at the moment are not particularly taking care of their health anywhere near as much as I think they should. You're only, if that, halfway through your life at this age, bro. Like, you really want to go through your whole life, a whole nother 45 years, your whole life again in this condition and getting worse? Bro, that doesn't make any sense to me. The first 45 years is when I've had the most amount of gifts, youth, recovery, learning experiences, broken bones healing so much quicker. Now I gotta go through another 45 years again, but already kind of broken and out of shape, and then imagine the quality of life that'll be. Oh my Lord. Anyway, didn't want to go on too much of a tangent here, but I did tell you guys I would quickly tap into how I eat or what I eat specifically. One other thing is I'll eat probably a good 60, 70, about 75% of the time. I'll eat foods that are on my blood type chart. So if you want to have a quick look at that, you can just Google it. Blood type diet. According to my blood type, I'm an A blood type. There's certain foods that are considered good for you, neutral, and bad. I try and stay away from the bad, obviously. I consider the neutrals to be almost bad in my opinion, so I essentially try not to eat any of the bad foods at all, like the red zone. I don't go in there at all. And I take the neutrals and make them sometimes foods and try and take that 75% of the time in the green zone, in the good foods. On top of that, and fasting, it's pretty much my whole eating habits and my whole protocols. There's different types of fasting. You're doing that intermittent stuff they talk about these days here, which I think is just called time-restricted eating, not intermittent fasting, personally. Or you do, I've done for years, and that's, I just don't eat on a 1 day a week. I'll have dinner on a Saturday night and I won't eat again until Monday breakfast. I just don't eat on Sundays. Or, as I've done here every time with some friends, 3 or 4 day fasts. Just to really clean everything out and get the autophagy thing kicking in and doing what it does. But anyway, that's it for me. I'm gonna see you guys on the floor in a minute. Peace. So my first exercise today is going to be a little bit of a kind of warm-up routine that I've been doing since back in the Jim Jones days with a buddy of mine called Nick Sisu, my Sisu buddy. It's just a simple sort of ladder where we're doing chin-ups and push-ups, warm up the upper body a little bit, push and pull, push and pull. So I'll go with 1 push-up, 2 chin-ups, no, 1 chin-up, 2 push-ups. Then I'll go 2 chin-ups, 4 push-ups. So I double the push-ups of the chin-ups, and I'm going up by 1 each time with the chin-ups. Would typically go up right, up to 5. So chin up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and push ups 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. We'll try today though to get up to 10. Don't think I've ever done that. What I would typically do is go up to 5 and then back down to 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I don't know how much I'll be able to do the chin-ups up at the upper end of it with the last, maybe the round of 8, 9, and 10. If I can do them in a row or in one sitting, one set, I'm not sure yet, but let's see. But the trick to the warm-up is that you don't move on to the next exercise until you finish the first. So even if I have to break down the last few sets of the chin-ups into a couple of smaller sets, and, you know, just take a little break in between them, so I'll do that. And shit, I might even have to do that on push-ups too at the moment. So let's see how we go. So I'm just going to start up here. Like I said, 1, 2, 2, 4, 3, 6, like that. Hopefully I don't get too lost. I'll try and keep a count. Probably going to be a little bit spent, gassed out, so I might not be doing too much talking. Might pause after that just for a quick sec. But also, I'll get a hell of an upper body pump. So look for Superman strength. Ugh. Microphone is under my shirt, guys. So if you hear something touching the ground, that's why. Oh. 2, 4, so 3. 6. 4. 8. 5. 10. All right. Numbers on a numbered scale, halfway. On a total numbers, only about a quarter of the way, a third of the way, whatever it is. So I will take a small rest in between these rounds. Otherwise I will gas out completely, mumble even more than I normally do, and bore the absolute bananas out of you as I'll try and fill in the silence with rubbish. I prefer not to do that. I think you guys have had to endure that way too much already. But I will quickly say that I appreciate feedback. I'm doing this video series to put out what I have inside, whether that be general thoughts, life, maybe some knowledge that can help people, but at the same time, training tips and bits and pieces as well. But I also am doing this to get better. So I'm saying, no, buddy, all yours. So I'm also using this kind of stuff to get better at speaking, keeping eye contact with the camera, which I'm not doing right now, but all this kind of stuff, I want to make sure that I get better at this. Something I've wanted to do for a long time, shied away from it for whatever reason, but I want to try and get better at it. So I appreciate the feedback. Even if it's from friends and family, I don't care. They know me more than most or better than most when it comes to habits and long time habits. So it's good to see when they spot something and let me know. 12. Try and count out a little bit of time. There's a clock over here I can keep an eye on. I'm not wearing a watch today, just to make sure I'm not doing too much break in between the sets. Let me quickly go check this time. So I posted earlier this week a few times with my little pre-workout meals and a couple of times my post-workout reward meals. The Mexican joint down the road here, amazing. But I do use these sort of energy drinks a little bit. I try and find the better ones. I'm not perfect at these, they kind of taste good, you know. So every once in a while I spoil myself with this stuff, but I don't see it as too much of an issue because I don't really take that amount of those chemicals and those type of drinks in. I don't really drink soft drink. I don't eat, you know, potato chips, corn chips, a little bit sometimes, but not really. These are the ones that have the most, for me, amount of chemicals and, you know, can't pronounce it. Why the hell are you eating it? There's a lot of that stuff in soft drink, potato chips, all those type of things. I don't eat those things, so a little bit of a whatever type. I'm not one out here trying to name all these brands, but whatever sort of sports drink or energy drink you want to use, it's not too bad. So I do have those things every once in a while. Someone jumped in on the one I had posted, how it's not healthy for you. It probably isn't, but it's one of the better ones. So I use that one sometimes, and that's what's in my drink. That's why I brought that up. Heavily salted, probably about 1.6 grams of sodium in that normal 1 liter or whatever, however many ounces that is, I'm not sure. But in that drink bottle, there's 1.6 grams of salt, and through sodium chloride tablets, by the way, not just shaker salt, not that. I didn't weigh out that much salt. And half a can of the energy drink. I had the other half at home before I came here 15 minutes before I left the house. That's how I broke that down. That's what that is. In case anyone's wondering, so let's get that set of 7 in. Team. Anybody wondering about the push-ups? I have a slightly different technique of push-up because of the shoulder injuries I've gone through the years, but for probably the most part, it is pretty much just narrow grip, narrow elbows. I don't go wide. I don't get into the neck, and I try not to bounce at the bottom too much, although it looks like I do. Technically I do bounce, but I'm not using the bounce as a way up. I use it as a measurement. So I think that there's 3 parts, 1, 2, and 3, that should touch the floor when you hit the bottom of the push-up. Not all 3, but 1, maybe 2 of them. And the biggest one is most people with their nose. They put their sort of head forward. And although mine kind of does go forward a little bit, I'm not moving it. I'm not pushing forward to try and get my knees to go down. It's either going to be my sternum or my junk. And because the sternum is right where this microphone is for you guys, it's going to be this one for me today. But typically I try and make it a sternum, and that's what I think you should be doing. I keep my shoulder blades a little bit more squeezed together at the bottom, at the bottom, the whole way, so that at the bottom, you're almost in full retraction. Seatbelt locked in, shoulder blades locked in together. About the only tip I have with push-ups, apart from wrist position, angle, and elbow position, and their rotational angle, as long as it's comfortable for you. I have pre-existing little bits and pieces that makes me put my arms in a specific area or a specific place, in a specific place. But that's just personal. So that's just what I do, why I do it. Like that. Okay, let's go with an 8. $16. Time and attention is how muscles grow. The amount of time the muscle is being pushed. And I don't mean as if for the first rep, because the first handful of reps aren't really going to be pushing the muscle. They're just using it. It's that last part where it's being pushed, that hard part. That's the bit where you'll push the body to repair itself after bringing it down to be stronger or faster or whatever it is. Time and attention is starting to kick in now. Starting to feel this in the chin-ups and the shoulders, and so the shoulder being used in both those movements. I'm starting to see in the mirror a bit more volume and blood is going there. I can definitely feel it as a whole, and also feel it physically during the movements that the shoulder is starting to get pretty tight, pretty wound in. That's how you'll end up with tight muscles. And if you don't do anything to loosen that up or to undo that kind of damage or that kind of work, you'll end up with those injuries later on. Reaching over the fridge to grab something and thinking, oh, you know, I was in the fridge grabbing this thing and I pulled my neck. Reaching over to grab that thing in the fridge was not what caused the neck to pull, the muscle to spasm. It was the workout you did where you were cutting down a tree sporadically, randomly, and you have the fitness and strength to do, but weren't able to, you know, fully recover from that before you reached up to the fridge, or whether it was a hard workout like this. The undoing, the stretching, the relaxation, magnesium massage, ice bath, ice, anything, dry needling, anything to undo some of these really tight muscle and wound up joints like my shoulder joint would be after this. I'll be doing some dead hangs and I'll be doing some stretches later on this afternoon to do that. But just a little bit of a tip for you guys who are out there doing exercises for the first time that you know you physically can do or are capable of, but haven't done it in a while. You got to drop the ego a little bit and warm into it a little bit. You may be able to do it, but warm into it. Otherwise, you get tight, you get burnt, hurt, then you're out for months, weeks or months. Not worth it. 9. I'll turn the microphone off because there's nothing to talk about. But we'll see you guys on the next little exercise in a sec. That way. So I've had to switch up a little bit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do 5 sets of 5. I'm actually going to do 6 sets technically, because I'm going to do 1 set with this. It's just to warm up the movement itself. Although my shoulders are very warm and there's a lot of blood in there, I will do 1 set with these, and then I'll chuck on another 20 kilo or 45 plate, whatever it is, and be pulling whatever that will be, about 100 kilos or something, or 220. And just pull out 5 sets of 5 like that, just to get a decent little pump. My shoulders are pretty warm. It should feel a little heavier than it actually is. The reason I decided to do this is I was asked the other day, how do I make something that feel a little heavier if I don't have the right weight? So what you can do is make sure the exercises are being challenged by slowing down the movement. That'll always put a little bit more effort and effort into the shoulder, and that way the shoulder, or in this example the shoulder, will make the muscle feel like it's working out with a little bit more weight. So if you can't quite do the next dumbbell up in size, then just work a little bit slower on the dumbbell that you're using currently with your repetitions, and it'll feel like it's heavier. And whatever the muscle feels, it's going to be what the muscle is going to deal with. It's not really necessarily needing 100% more weight to feel like twice as heavy. It just needs some sort of intensity increase. And so slowing down the repetitions can do that. If you're doing anything to do with the shoulders, then just putting 10, 15 push-ups on the floor prior to coming up and doing dumbbell presses or dumbbell lateral raises or something will make the shoulder work a little harder because it's pre-fatigued from the push-ups, those type of examples. So what I'm going to do here is just a set of warm-up. Contrary to most people, when I do my warm-up sets, I should be able to still talk all the way through here, so let's see how that goes. Contrary to what most people think, I don't necessarily need my warm-up set to be higher repetitions. I just need the movement to be slightly warmed up. I've done the push-ups, which has warmed up the movement as a whole, whatever that total equals, 1 through 10. Someone can do the math. I think it's about 110, I believe, something like that. 2, 4, 6, 8, up to 20. So I'll just do these as a warm-up like this. A couple of lower bottom pulses, a couple of halves, and then I'll do a couple of fulls, and that's enough. I'm not trying to warm up my whole body from scratch like as if I just came up cold off the street. So I should be okay with that. I'll chuck on a couple more barbells and get straight into my first set of 5. Right, so I've just realized as well that the bar, for anyone counting, the bar is the 15 kilo bar, not the 20 kilo bar. So whatever numbers I said earlier, just minus 5 kilos for that if you're following along and you need to know the specific numbers, or you're one of those people who somehow means that I'm not going to be as strong as you, or you're stronger than me, or whatever. I kept at pretty low for that stuff. I'm not in a competitive mode with anyone, just myself, me and Mike. So I'm gonna pump out 5 sets of 5 reps of this, and the technique I'll be using is not a specific timed rest period in between. I'm gonna go based on how I feel, and I want rep 4 and 5 to be the harder repetitions. So I'll judge based on the prior set, whether my rest period is going to be 10 seconds or 2 minutes, depending on how hard I felt rep 4 and 5 were. I'll judge the rest period in between there to, make 4 and 5 on the next set a little tough, and maybe the last set, maybe rep 3 or 4 and 5 will be a little tougher. So I shouldn't need much of a rest on the first, so here we go. Technique wise, I'm going about 45 to 60 degree angle with the elbow. I'm keeping the grip relatively narrow. It's not narrow as in going to hit my body, it's just outside of my own body width, so roughly sort of the shoulder joint or a tiny little bit wider. Grip, I tend to do this the thumb. This is not a good idea. Always wrap your thumb around the bar, I think. So if you see me doing it, do as I say, not as I do. It's a bit of a bad habit, an old bad habit I have. Okay, so I'm touching the bar on my chest, on my sternum as well. I'm not bouncing, just touching. And at the same time, I'm lifting my butt off the bench. It's not quite trying to lift my butt off the bench, the movement. It's pushing my feet on the ground quite sternly, quite strongly. And by doing that, then my butt kind of lifts off the bench. You may not see my butt coming off the bench 100%, still may be touching at some point, but it's kind of, I'm trying to lift my torso, but by pushing into the ground and getting that kinetic energy transfer I've talked about in previous videos. The energy I'm pushing into the ground, because the ground's not going anywhere, that energy comes back up through my body. And if I've locked my hips, which is why when I say I lift my glutes or my butt off the bench, I'm getting a straight locked in muscle contraction through the torso, through the glutes, and through the quads from pushing into the ground. Because those are locked and not moving, there's no energy loss in that movement. The energy should come all the way through my body and into my shoulders and triceps and chest, right? Supposedly. I feel that, whether you do or not is irrelevant. I'm doing this for me. I'm telling you what I do and why I do it. I feel that, and I've trained athletes with kinetic energy transfer movements. In almost any and every movement, there's a way to make that happen. Technically, not as much or as powerful in machines, but still even in machines. So I believe in that. That's one of the main sort of philosophies, training philosophies I've gone with, is that kinetic energy transfer, and that's based on athletic movement. Having trained athletes, being one myself, has made me see those type of movements and those type of energy chain transfers a lot in all sorts of different sports and movements. So I use that even in, it was essentially just a general bodybuilding movement of a bench press. I still try and apply those things. All right, so I'm gonna get my second set in. 4 and 5 should be fairly tough here. I'm guessing that's about a 1 minute rest or a little bit more. I'm not feeling this too much in the shoulder. I shouldn't really be feeling it in the shoulder. If you do feel it in the shoulder, try and get rid of the elbow height, bring it down a little bit. A lot of times the angle of the elbow, as in this angle, is not as important as the shoulder position. So if I'm lifting my elbow up to this position to get 90 degrees at the underneath the armpit there, sometimes the shoulder joint itself has lifted itself out of the position that it needs to be in to feel safe and secure to the torso. So if you can lift your elbow up that high, that's fine, but you must keep that shoulder down. You want to keep those muscles that are keeping the shoulder down, you want all those muscles working, because they're the ones that are going to create that stable foundation of all the muscles being locked into place for that kinetic energy transfer I talk about to pass through them and end up in the arm, in the chest. If that shoulder is sort of disconnected, so to speak, from the torso, any energy I'm pushing through the floor, through my glutes, through my torso are going to hit that shoulder area and have nowhere to go, because that muscle is loose, not contracted, and it kind of just dies and fizzles away here. That could potentially lead to a little bit of a back injury, because then you're putting all that force and energy into your back without it going anywhere. So it kind of sits in one spot. So yeah, keep the shoulders down then whatever position your elbows are in that feels safe and you feel stronger in, that's the position for you. And you in your position is better than copying that guy's position, that girl's position, this dude's position. Your own position, shoulder position, elbow position, chest strength position is on you. It's on you. Figure that out firstly. Once you got that, then Bob's your uncle, as they say. So, second set, we'll go third. I believe it's the third good heavy set. Oh. Yeah, bench press. Haven't done that in a while, but I do enjoy a little bit of sort of muscle training, heavyweight sometimes. So the last 2 sets, I'm actually going to put a little bit more on because the lighter weight of the bar has my brain and mic in my ear this whole time, telling me I'm a bit of a whatever. So I'm just going to chuck a couple of 5 kilos on or something. Push out the last 2 reps like that, last 2 sets like that. All right, so that should be 20, 40, 110 kilos, whatever that is in pounds, to 30 to 40. But yeah, we'll pump out 5 reps on this. You get a little feel for how that feels on the body and fatigue factor, and I might either drop those 5s off for the last set and do it with a shorter rest period, or I might switch those 5s out and put more on and have a slightly bigger rest period and try and pump out another 5 reps with a slightly heavier weight. Yeah, feeling pretty decent. So let's see how we go. Let's see how we feel. Let's pump out a set for now and figure that bit out later. Oh. All right, we'll check more on. Why not? Why not get a little crazy, huh? A little bit of fun. If I'm going to look like I can bench press a house, I should be able to bench press a house. Not sure if a buddy of mine remembers saying that, but he came to a training session back in Australia when I used to have a little group of bodybuilders doing health and fitness, you know, bikini competitions and stuff. He is in his own right a men's world champion, big guy, and he was out. He came into our gym and started squatting, and he was squatting almost all the plates in the damn gym. We did not have a big bodybuilding type gym, so there wasn't that many big ass plates around, but he was grabbing almost all of them and doing squats. And back then, you know, the Ronnie Coleman, yeah buddy, was around, and he's pulling this out. I said to him, bro, how much are you gonna squat? He goes, well, if I look like I could squat a house, I better be able to squat a house. And he did look like he could squat a house. He's got ginormous legs. Go check him out on Instagram. He'll love this, but He's also started a new TV series, one of the gladiators in Australia at the moment. His name's Kwame Dua. Go check him out on Instagram. Hell of a dude, very nice guy, but this guy's got legs the size of a house, and trust me when I say they're not just all for show, they definitely have some go behind them. But Kwame, that quote was for you, buddy. If you can look like you can bench press a house, you better be able to bench press a house. Right, so this is a little heavier than I've gone in a long time. I'm gonna try and go for 5. I'm also not gonna try and hurt myself, so if I do feel like, you know, I gotta quit at 4 or 3 or something, I will. But just letting you guys know, I'm trying to beat Mike, who's on my shoulder right now, so I'm trying to beat him and get out the 5 that I said I would. But not out here trying to hurt myself either, so be a little bit smart and let the ego do what it does, but not surpass. Oh, the house. We got there. It was a little sketch, but we got there. All right. One of the little things I like to do sometimes as well, if it's the only exercise I'll be doing, which in today's workout, it is the only bigger exercise I'm doing, taking away the 55 pull-ups and 110 push-ups I did technically as a warm-up. And I'll just crank out a max rep set on this just to burn it out. Get a bit of a blood flow going and a little bit of a pump, which I don't think is that important, but I kind of like the feeling. So I'm gonna do that. Typically, I get about 23 reps out of this, but I don't always do that big set. So let's see what I can get out of here. Making sure you keep the shoulder blades stuck onto the bench and not lifting up. Blocking out the elbows each time. Doesn't mean squeezing the shoulders or rounding out the shoulders. They're still stuck. Locked in behind. At the elbows. Locking out each time. I just felt my right shoulder lift. Okay. 2 times in a row with the right shoulder lifting like this to get that last rep out is enough for me to bail out. I probably have 1 or 2 left in me as far as the movement is concerned, but the repetitions are done. The movement's fatigued. The muscles are too, so I'm leaving it at that. That'll be the end of today's video. So I hope you get a little something from it. Like, comment, subscribe, share. Dislike if you want, I don't care. Anything's better than nothing. And if you dislike it, I have absolutely no issues with that. I'm trying to get all the information and feedback I can. But don't be a dick. Tell me why. Just tell me why you don't like it. I'm happy with that because then I can make changes and hopefully make it slightly better for you in the future. So yeah, I'm happy with all that. For me, decent little workout. I have to stretch this chest out quite a bit, to be honest. I'm feeling it. 50 push-ups this morning when I wake up. 110 in the warm-up with the chin-ups earlier over there. And then 25 plus whatever that was, another 23 or 25, whatever that was. The 50 plus on the bench, that's all 60 also to count the warm-up set. Chest has had it. shoulders will be rounded, back will be rounded. I'll be aware of that as I stand from night to night on my night shift job. I'll still be stretching actively twice today before I hit that job later this evening. And then I'll see you guys on the next video. It is the end of 2023 here. So it'll be Happy New Year's to you guys. And hopefully everybody's taking care of themselves into the new year. I know that most people use the new year as a time to get going and get started. So utilize that. I'm not against it, I'm not for it. I'm impartial to it, but as long as you guys are getting healthy, working towards your goals and gaining, subtracting and doing something, I'm all for it. Reach out, Instagram, same name as this channel, same on TikTok, and I think even Twitter. Got questions, I'm here. I'm here to encourage. That's the whole purpose of this. As far as what you guys are getting out of it, I get a lot from it too, personally. So I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you very much. Thanks for supporting in any shape or form. Merci beaucoup. To French people listening. And yeah, see you on the next one.